questions. Thank you very much. So, well, before we talk about data and analytics, let's take a history lesson actually. Let's look back at the evolution of advertising. In the 1980s, most of the brands and companies were using traditional media such as newspaper, and then radio came along and made advertising a little bit more interactive with sound, etc. And then came TV, where things became more visual, from black and white to color, and then eventually became the web. I believe the web in the 90s changed a lot of things because suddenly you have access to a lot more interactivity and a lot more media format, which helps advertisers to do a lot more things, which also changes the behavior that consumers are doing at the time. And then in the 20s, finally came the mobile. The mobile also changed a lot of times from having a fixed desktop, a fixed usage of your desktop, your PC, or the web. You eventually are having a device on your phone, on your hands that's with you every single day. So for advertisers, that means they get access to all these consumers in real time almost. And then came the little smartwatches, the IoT devices that we put in home, etc. So what we're seeing is throughout this evolution, advertising becomes more and more about targeted media as opposed to being a mass media. Of course, TV, radio hasn't gone away. They're probably going to stick around for about 10, 20 more years in the future. But more and more advertisers are looking at targeted media, which means they're specifically targeted to the right target audience. They're looking for niche groups of audience that really interacts with the content. They're really looking for their products or services. So what's interesting is we're seeing this trend where brands are starting to have more and more one-to-one conversations as opposed to one-to-many conversations. And throughout this conversation, I'll be focusing more on this topic, on how brands can actually do more and more one-to-one consumer engagement by using data and analytics. Now, let's go back to the role of linear media, which is the traditional media, TV, radio, newspaper, right? Because the behavior that consumers used to see is with TV, with radio, with newspaper, you're basically set in a context, right? You're sitting at home, you're watching TV on your couch. There's a dedicated time and place to consume content, to consume ads, whether that's on TV or radio. So that means a dedicated attention was given during that window of time. And there's almost zero connected customer journey, right? So remember back in the days when we watched TV, we're not looking at our smartphones while we're watching TV. We're not actively searching for things while we're watching, etc. Right? That behavior didn't happen. In linear media, that behavior doesn't exist. But from the marketer side, with that kind of consumer behavior, with that kind of medium, the challenges with marketers is that there's no real way of knowing the true ROI of your campaigns, because TV spots can be very expensive. Actually, there's no benchmark. Like it can cost $10,000, $50,000, cost $100,000, but there's no real true ROI on how many people are engaged with your content, how many people actually saw it, how many people actually spend, for example, more than 30 seconds, more than 60 seconds, more than 10 seconds, etc., etc. So it is very difficult to measure performance in linear media. And we all know that, right? And what happened was, in the 20s, in the 2000s, early 2000s, the emergence of digital media and the emergence of web, the emergence of social media, the emergence of mobile came up and actually solved some of these challenges that the marketers are facing. So, with the technology, it also had an impact on consumer behavior. On the left side, you'll see a subway train in somewhere in US or Europe. This also happens in Myanmar on YB, etc., where everybody's kind of stuck on their mobile phones and stuck on their computers. So that means that changes happen to consumer behavior. Number one, from consuming content, from consuming your ads, from receiving marketing messages, sometimes the behavior shifted to always on. We're always on our devices, whether that's a phone, a smartwatch, etc. We're always looking at content, right? Especially, for example, if you're scrolling through Facebook, sometimes 1 hour passes, 2 hours passes, 3 hours passes, right? So from consuming content sometimes to always consuming content. Second, from consuming content through a single device like the TV or radio, we're now consuming content on multiple devices, right? And thirdly, from linear, which means you're consuming content that the station or TV station or radio station wants you to receive. You're consuming content on demand because you're consuming content essentially based on what you want, your mood and tone, etc., etc. And lastly, you're consuming content that is more personalized. Back in the days of linear media, the ads are not personalized, right? You're seeing an ad that's more mass market, which is also my point earlier about the shift from mass media to targeted media, right? So what these changes means is that in consumer behavior means is that marketers now need to now actually have bigger challenges because, like I said, it's how do you target consumers? How do you engage with consumers that are on different devices at the same time? How do you make sure that your content is always relevant because the attention span is so small? How do you make sure that your content or your advertising or your marketing is reaching to the consumer all the time on different devices, right? So these are the key challenges that marketers have to face today. And let's look at what is digital really, right? And to me, digital is crazy, right? It's not similar to linear. We can't think about digital in the same way that we think about traditional media. And the reason is because digital is across different channels and across different devices at the same time. Now, if you think about it, even if you talk about Facebook, right? Facebook as a channel. Facebook as a channel actually exists on multiple devices, right? For example, if you think about radio channel or TV channel, right? It's on TV, right? There's no different devices. But if you think about Facebook or any digital media, they can be in different devices, right? So Facebook can be on desktop, Facebook can be on mobile. What that actually means is your marketing has to be on point on each specific device. You need to understand what consumers are using that particular device for, when they are using it, and how they're using it. That's what digital means. And they can be in a variety of different devices, from tablets to laptops to mobile phones to TV, to big screens, to smartwatches, to smart home devices, etc., etc. So that means marketers must now orchestrate their campaigns on different channels, on different devices, right? Gone are the days where marketers can think about just one single campaign that's going to be a major campaign TV. Now they need to think about multiple channels and multiple campaigns that are coming up on different devices. The second thing that I want to highlight is, unlike traditional media, advertising or marketing online, on digital media, it's super cheap. And because of that, consumers now being bombarded with content every single day. What that means is your piece of content, the ad that you're showing to the consumer on Facebook, on Google, on search, has to be super relevant so that it captures their attention. Just now I mentioned that the attention span of consumer is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. This is exactly why your marketing campaigns has to be on point, has to be done on the right device. I won't go through this in detail, but this is how Myanmar looks like, right? And when we talk about these trends, they are usually global, but the same trend actually applies to Myanmar, right? Because to be honest, it applies to Myanmar more than any other country in the world, because consumers of Myanmar got access to smartphones about 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and now more than half of the country actually is on the internet, and everybody's using Facebook. A lot of people are consuming content on YouTube. Everyone's browsing on the web, etc. So marketers cannot ignore this piece of segment, this type of consumer behavior, because that's going to be what the future is. So marketers of today need to show personalized ads, right, with the right message at the right time on the right channel. I would even argue that on the right device, which means this presents a new set of challenges for marketers. Number one, how do I make sure that my marketing is more targeted? Remember earlier I mentioned from being a mass media, mass targeting to a more targeted specific targeting, right? So how do you do that? And number two, back in the days with traditional, you can always run TV surveys, ratings, etc., to measure how effective your advertisement campaign is, right? But with digital, you don't have months, you have days, if not hours, to measure it, right? How do you measure if the campaigns are effective? And secondly, and most importantly, how do you make sure that the marketing messages, the marketing campaigns that you're doing actually have a direct impact on your revenue, to a point where you want to know which specific campaign that is targeting which specific audience is making me the most amount of revenue. How do you do that? And lastly, how do you track consumers' behavior? Like I said, the behavior of consumer is changing by the day, changing by the hour, right? So whatever that we know a month ago may not be so relevant as of today. So that means marketers need to actually tweak their campaigns to be more relevant in almost real time. So how do you do all of that? And the answer is really in data, we believe. And why is data so important, right? And in our perspective, in nexlabs perspective, data is really important. Or in fact, I would say that data is really the foundation of online marketing. And here's how we look at online marketing, right? So the first step, you might launch a campaign. Second, you need to actually track behavior and learn insights from these consumer behaviors. So what do they like? What do, for example, an audience from 18 to 25 like? Where do they hang out? What sort of behaviors are they showing, etc.? Learn these insights, and then once again, tweak the messaging and targeting, and then relaunch the campaign or optimize it, and then do all of that over and over and over again. I believe there's a fundamental difference between online marketing and traditional marketing, right? But because in traditional marketing, you spend months, if not years, to do that. But with online marketing, you could actually do that on a daily basis, or on an hourly basis, or weekly basis if you wanted to. Right? Because in online marketing, I feel that everything, because of the power of data, it's a more continuous loop as opposed to one linear straight line. That's why data is really important, because you need data to actually tweak your messaging to be more relevant, to be more targeted, and then you need to optimize your campaign based on that. Right? So data actually enhances the effectiveness of your marketing campaigns. And with technology, that's what I mean earlier as well. Without technology, this would not have been possible, right? With technology, we can actually now track where consumers are, number one, based on their smartphone GPS location, where they're putting their hands on the screen by tracking their taps, right? Which means you actually can tweak your websites or your app based on how consumers are behaving, right? And thirdly, you also understand what type of devices a specific consumer has using a technology called cross-platform cookie tracking. Basically, it means whether you're using an iPhone or an Android, whether you have multiple devices, marketers are actually now able to track what specific devices you have and what you're doing on a specific device in real time, right? That's the power of technology. So by using that, marketers can actually learn a lot, learn us a lot more, get a lot more data, and actually improve their marketing campaigns. So I just want to quickly highlight on what marketers can do by leveraging data. And in the second part of this presentation, my colleague Win Myat would actually give you more examples to illustrate this point better on what marketers can do and what kind of insights they can get by leveraging data. So the fundamental thing is data actually helps you understand where your money's going, right? Usually, one of the biggest challenges for business owners and advertisers and managers is that half the money they spend on advertising is usually wasted, and the trouble is they don't know which one, right? And that's a fundamental problem that I believe data-driven marketing approach can solve. Because with data-driven marketing, you'll see an example later on. We can actually see where your money is going per campaign and how that money is spent, number one, and how that money actually contributes to your revenue, to a point where your campaign A maybe contributes to, let's say, 30% of your revenue, or your campaign B that's running at the same time contributes to 60% of the revenue, right? You can also obtain insights into customer engagement patterns, and you can identify customer segments and profile them to better relate to customers. This is important because since you're gathering a lot of data, what you can now do is you can group people together. And I believe everyone has heard of this incident by Facebook with a company called Cambridge Analytica, where Cambridge Analytica basically manipulated lots and lots of US citizens to vote differently from what they originally thought, right? They had a huge impact on the overall global political landscape. Because fundamentally what they did was they profiled people, and you would think that everyone's different, but the reality is the data shows us that not everybody is different. Actually, everybody's the same. So you can profile them and group them together to identify segments. And number four, you could also, data can and analytics can also help marketers to understand what the best performing products and services are for each particular customer segment. That helps you to optimize your campaigns for all of that. And number five, you can gain insights on the best performing channels for each customer segment. One of the examples that I can give is, we were running, actually Win Myat as well, and the team, my team was running a campaign for a client that spends quite a lot of money. And at the end of the day, we realized it's actually not the paid advertising channel that's generating the most amount of revenue. It was consuming the most amount of expense, but not the most amount of revenue. It was actually a free channel called search, which is Google search, that was generating the most amount of revenue. So that kind of insights can help us to allocate our budget. So we reduce the spend and we helped the client to optimize the website further for their SEO so that they can generate even more revenue from the best performing channel. Number six, we could also test different messages for each customer segment to optimize efficiency. That's also the beauty of online marketing, because you don't have to wait days to change the billboard creative. You can just do it in a click and you can immediately see results. And lastly, you could also develop new market segment to increase market share, right? Because, for example, if you're selling a product, you may not know that a particular market segment existed because your research may not come up, maybe the consumer behavior change, etc. But with data and analytics, you can actually see that in almost real time. So you could start optimizing for that. So how do we do all of this, right? I've talked a lot about the theories and the benefits, etc. But how do you actually do that? In a nutshell, this is how you would do it, right? If you have a modern, you need to, number one, have a really, really solid analytics stack, which allows you to, number one, have a unified view of customer. What that means is, customers of today are not simple anymore, right? Customers of today have multiple, like I said, are engaging with the brand on multiple channels, on multiple devices. Therefore, having a unified view of customer actually helps you to understand 360 about the customer. We can also call this a 360 view, right? And number two, with different parameters that you gather. So for example, what does, for example, women likes to do online, right? And how does, what kind of content women consume from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., right? And what kind of pages does Win Myat follows on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, etc. And what sort of movies does he like, etc. Based on all these different attributes, you could create different segments of your customer, whether that's on on demographics or whatsoever. And number three, for really to take it even further with more modern analytics tech. And before this, I want to say that you need a lot of data for this. But three, you could actually predict how Win Myat is actually going to interact with this campaign even before the campaign is launched, using some advancements in AI and machine learning, etc. Number four, then you can really start looking at cross-channel engagement. And like I said earlier, consumers today are really complicated, right? You can't just talk to them on a single channel. You need to talk to them on multiple channels at the same time and at the right time. And number five, then you need to start tracking customer behavior, responses, opens, clicks, etc. And lastly, you need to more importantly track your top line. How this campaign is actually converting customers to drive purchases, to drive signups, to drive business value, to drive revenue. And modern analytics that actually can help you to understand all of this. And that's the beauty of marrying technology and marketing. Some of the tools that are widely available, and some of these are actually free tools. You can use Google Analytics. You can use Google Tag Manager to consolidate your data, Facebook Insights. You need to probably have a CRM. We recommend HubSpot because it's super easy to use. And especially if you're building mobile apps, you need to use more sophisticated mobile attribution and analytics tools such as Adjust, Raise, etc. that helps you to optimize, to first understand all these things, to exactly that helps you to do all of this, either manually and automatically. So now I've taken quite a bit of time. Let us show you some examples, and with that, I'd like to pass this over to my colleague Win Myat, who's actually really a specialist and an expert in data and analytics at nexlabs. Thank you. Yeah, take it over.
Yeah. How do I take control of the slide?
Let me do it for you. No worries.
All right. Sorry. Okay. So hi everyone. Thank you for joining our. Thank you for joining us today, and allow me to introduce myself quickly. My name is Win Myat. I'm working in media buying manager from nexlabs, And I've been working with different type of businesses, helping them to drive front acquisition, online conversion to lead generation for both B2B and B2C businesses. And today I'm going to share some of the example of some of the basic web analysis we always been regularly doing to optimize our marketing campaigns. And first, I would like to start off with how do we analyze the audience level analysis by using Google Web e-commerce analytics. And how we utilize those data to improve the metrics that actually impact our client businesses. So the first two questions I'm going to answer with my analytic dashboard is, where are the high performing, high value users, in which age range are, and on which device owners are, and which kind of interest or user with the user are most performing, and how do we utilize the data to improve the targeting strategy of our marketing campaigns. So understanding the audience composition in terms of gender, age, and interest let you understand the kinds of creative content you need to develop and the kind of media buy you should make, and the kinds of audience you need to develop for your marketing and remarketing campaign. So let's move on to the next slide. So this is the audience level reporting dashboard under our Google e-commerce analytic. And if you look at the data, our primary target is we have been targeting in our marketing was 24 to 45 years old and who are working adults. And however, according to the data, the conversion of the older age range are the higher than our actual target audience. And if you look at the conversion rate performance of the gender, and the female shoppers are most likely to convert than their male counterpart. So if you look by leveraging this given insight of these reported data, and we can even try to make the improvement of our marketing efforts by expanding our target audience from 24 to 45 to 24 to 54 years, who are actually the most converting audience, and we can even allocate more budget on the targeting female gender, and maybe we can invest more of our marketing resources such as creative and media buying for the female product lines. So moving into the next slide. And we can also dive deeper into the audience segment to see which device models are they using most and when they are shopping on our website. And if you look at the data pattern, you will notice that the majority of the device with the highest conversion rate are high value devices. And which is also high-end and flagship devices, which indicating that the most performing user groups are high intent earners. So this kind of data is very useful for our targeting to be improved. And let's see how we have discovered new high-performing target audience segment in the Facebook advertising campaign by utilizing these insight from the insight in the next slide. So this is the audience managed dashboard where you can create and redefine your target audience for your advertising campaign. And by capitalizing the given insight from the previous audience analysis, we have extended our target audience age range from 25 to 45 to 24 to 54. And we also tested target audience by putting the digital behavior of who the owners of the high-end and flagship mobile devices, as you can see in the slide presentation slide. So from that experiment, we have managed to discover new target audience, new performing target audience, which is 1.4% higher conversion rate than other interest and behavior-based target audience. This is the power of audience analytics data that have given to us, to improve our targeting capability in our advertising campaign. So for the next slide, this is one of the very useful reporting data of the Google Analytics. And if you're looking to improve your targeting for your Google advertising, especially for Google advertising campaigns, And I will show you how we have utilized these data for for our Google Ads campaign. So we have used those in market interest parameter. I have explained that what is the meaning of in market audience. So in market audience are those who are the consumer who are actively searching or comparing products or services across Google sites within the Google ecosystem, which means every website and platform that is connected to the Google ecosystem. And so we have those in market interest parameter in our Google campaign, and combine. So sorry. So I wish Yannick, can you move into the next slide, please? So yeah. So if you look at here, we can combine our keywords with in market target audience so that we can improve our relevancy between our user search terms and user intent, and so that we can able to optimize the ad spend. So instead of spending on the every keyword, we can only focus spending our ad spend on the keyword with the higher intent. That way we can we can optimize our we can able to optimize our result 1.6 higher in conversion rate than compared to the campaign with the campaign without audience targeting. So this is the result of the data that we extracted from the Google Analytics dashboard, and how we have used on the advertising campaign. So the second question I'm going to answer with our Google Analytics dashboard is how we can find out the effectiveness of our marketing sources, or aka our marketing channel, and how do we use those data to scale up or scale our marketing campaign in an effective way, or in an efficient manner. So moving to the next slide. So this is the dashboard of the channel grouping dashboard. Some of you guys may know that this is a channel grouping dashboard and our Google e-commerce Google Analytics. And channel grouping analysis is the most common and widely used analytic to quickly, or when we want to quickly find out the performance of each of our traffic channels, which means our marketing channels, right? So in our case, we have 3 marketing channels that we are mainly relying, in our project, in our client scenario, and we have been relying on 3 main marketing channels, to drive traffic to our e-commerce platform, right? So the first one is our organic search that indicates our performance of the SEO efforts, and the second marketing channel is the Facebook. It's our go-to marketing platform where we are running where we run our demand generation campaigns and promotion campaigns, right? And the third sort is our paid search, aka our search engine marketing. And among these traffic channels and among these when you look at you can compare to the channels, and if you look at the channel, the paid search advertising channel is the most performing when it comes to the conversion rate, and also not only the conversion rate, but also for both the returning user and new user conversion rate is also higher than and compared to any other channel. So what we do here is once we find when we have figured out the performance of the channel, we can start scaling up the budget on the particular marketing channel. So this is the first thing we have. And another thing is we have decided that where we can scale up our marketing, and then another what's the second thing we can do to find out what actions we have to take to improve our organic search traffic, right? So and we have done this landing page analysis, and if you look at the dashboard here, and you will see the top performing landing page. Can you click the next button, please? So you will see the top of the top performing landing pages in the Google ranking, and that's driving the huge organic for traffic volume. And you will see those pages with lower click-through rate, with lower, which is even lower than our site average click-through rate. So that's the issue that we that's the data telling you where you should be improving, right? So in SEO, search engine optimization, we always start with on-page optimization, which is called metadata optimization. That means title, heading, and meta description. And one is when it comes to click rate issue, right? If you find out you have the lower click rate, you could just go to the meta, just go to the optimize your metadata of your, and some of the SEO issue. We have managed to lift our average of our overall site conversion rate to 0.36 conversion rate compared to the previous period. This is the data, and then how we have utilized to improve our marketing efforts on different channels. And the last example is the behavior analysis, but I'm not going to deep dive behavior analysis, abandonment rate analysis, because in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly cover the very basic of the behavior analysis that we can quickly do and easily set up on your e-commerce analytics dashboard. And the first question is what are the question that I am going to share with you is that what are the most popular searches on our site during our COVID-19 period, and how do we identify such that help you inform your product you offers, and how do we optimize the shopping experience on your site by using those data, right? So this is the site search analysis. Some of you may know that, you may know it, and we always look at this data to find out the most popular products, product search happening during the COVID-19 period. This period is from March to September to date, and you will not be surprised to see that the fact that the most popular product people search on your sites are from healthcare and such, because this is COVID-19 period. People tend to search for more products related to their healthcare and personal care, and followed by the basic grocery stuff, right? So because people are start stockpiling the needs while they during the lockdown. So by using these, they leverage these insight, you may be featuring, you may start featuring your popular product on your main pages or your landing pages of your website, and you may have the cross-selling and upselling opportunity, and you can even think of marketing content, think of repurposing or creating optimizing your marketing content that can fill up the gap between the gap between what you are communicating and what people are actually searching. So this is a very basic and very easy for you to set up, and you can start analyzing your performance on your website and start optimizing your targeting campaign, advertising campaign. So this is all for my part. Thank you for joining us the webinar today.
Thank you, Win Myat, for taking to the example. So this is actually our last slide. I just want to do a very quick takeaway. So what does all this mean, and what kind of impact does it have, right? So at the end of the day, I think that analytics actually empowers decisions. So to be honest, in our perspective, we see analytics as a way to have a direct impact that's on your marketing 4Ps. We all know marketing 4Ps, right? Your product, price, promotion, place. Let's go one by one. So how does analytics actually have an impact on product? Right. In the example that Win Myat gave, it basically one of the examples was how you can actually analyze what kind of products people are buying, what kind of services people are buying, and number two, and in the real world scenario with analytics, you can also gather feedback of how people are using the product. For example, for example, if you're building a digital product or website or mobile app. With analytics, you can actually go look at how people are using the product, for how long, what kind of flow they're going through, et cetera, so that you can create more functions. You can create different packaging of these services. You can create new copies, etc. So that's how analytics can actually empower your product positions. Second, price. Now, one of the examples that actually Win Myat didn't show this yet because it's quite sensitive is with analytics. Number one, we're able to actually see what's your cost of purchases, right? So by adding up your actual basic product cost plus cost of purchase, you really get how much profit you're actually generating from each particular sale. This is really interesting in e-commerce because you're able to say how much marketing budget you want to allocate per product, per item. Right? So that's how analytics can empower your price decisions. And number three, place channels. I mean, specifically online, where people are buying your product from. You can see all of that in analytics. And lastly, promotion. How each campaign, how each promotion, how each marketing activity is directly contributing to your sales. So at the end of the day, by harnessing all these data to derive analytics, can actually give you a lot of insights into your 4Ps on things that you're doing right and things that you're doing wrong. So where do we go from here, right? So if your brand or the brand that you're managing only have, let's say, Facebook, it's actually pretty difficult, or a Facebook page, it's actually pretty difficult to get a lot more data because at the end of the day, Facebook doesn't really want to give you a lot of data, right? So what we encourage our clients is to always look out for new channels to be developed, especially the ones that you actually own, whether there's an app, there's a website, there's an e-commerce, etc., where you actually have a full control on how you can collect the data, right? So if you don't have that yet, I really strongly encourage you to consider having that so that you can gather all these insights that directly have an impact on your top line and bottom line. And with that, I'd like to end this presentation and we'll go into questions. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining this call. Thank you. Let me go into questions now. There are 7 questions. I don't think we have the time to go through all of that. Let me see which one. Okay, I will start with number 1, Win Myat. Would you like to take this question? Number 1, which is, in making ROI report for social media, which criteria are needed to be included generally, which is asked by Sudhir. Win Myat, do you want to take it up?
Yeah, sure. So, do you want me to answer in Burmese on English?
Yeah, you can answer this in Burmese.
Okay.
And I'll do the translation in a bit.
Okay, so in my our report ကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ social media အတွက် our report ကျွန်တော်တို့လုပ်တဲ့နေရာမှာဘယ်လို criteria တွေလုပ်လဲဆိုရင်တော့ is really based on your objective of the marketing campaign တွေပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီ marketing campaign တွေမှာကျွန်တော်တို့မှာ annual objective တွေရှိသလိုကျွန်တော်တို့မှာ campaign based project campaign based ကျွန်တော်တို့ objective တွေရှိရပေါ့နော်တချို့ campaign တွေကကျွန်တော်တို့ traffic acquisition လားဒါမှမဟုတ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကဒီ lead generation လားဒါမှမဟုတ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကဒီ conversion လား e-commerce conversion လားပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ campaign objective ပေါ်မူတည်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဒီ social media မှာရဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ reporting outline reporting တွေမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ပြန်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ alignment လုပ်ရတယ်ခင်ဗျဆိုကြပါဆိုကျွန်တော်တို့ content ကလုံးဝကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဒီ objective ကလုံးဝဒီကာလအတွင်းမှာကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ဒီ brand engagement နဲ့ပတ်သက်တယ်ဆိုရင်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့က UGC campaign တွေကျွန်တော်တို့က run တဲ့ကာလဆိုရင်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ social media report ဟာဘာပဲဖြစ်တယ်လဲဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့engagement နဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့ KPI ပဲဖြစ်တယ်ပေါ့ for example ကျွန်တော် engagement rate ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီနေရာမှာတခု since တတိထားဖို့လိုတဲ့အရာကဘာလဲဆိုရင်တော့ကျွန်တော်က social media report ရဲ့ ROI တွေလုပ်တဲ့ခါမှာကျွန်တော်က absolute number တွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ကမတိုင်းတာဘဲနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့က growth rate တွေနဲ့ rate တွေနဲ့ growth rate တွေနဲ့တိုင်းတာမယ်ဆိုရင်တော့ပို့ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကcomparable ဖြစ်တာပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့အရင်တော့လုပ်ခဲ့တဲ့ effort နဲ့ဒီလုံးဝအခုလုပ်ခဲ့တဲ့ effort ကတည်းကဘယ်လောက်ထိဒီမှာ impact ရှိလဲဆိုတဲ့ဟာကိုကျွန်တော်တို့က easily တိုင်းတာလို့ရမယ်ပြီးရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကဒီ metric တွေကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့ကသုံးတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့ကနည်းနိုင်တယ်မှာနည်းနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့က single mindedly ကျွန်တော်တို့ drive လုပ်နိုင်မယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ metric တစ်ခုပဲကျွန်တော်တို့ကသုံးစေနေတယ်ပေါ့နော် for example ကျွန်တော်တို့ကဆိုကြပါစို့ကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ဒီ metric ကကျွန်တော်တို့က number of participant ကိုပြောမယ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့က number of participant အဲ့ဒီ number of participant ကိုရဖို့အတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ cost ကဘယ်လောက်လဲဆိုတော့ cost by number of participant acquisition ဆိုတဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့က cost by ဒီမှာဒီမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ acquisition ကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့ကတိုင်းတာမှာပေါ့နော်အဲ့တစ်ခုကကျတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဒီမှာKPI တကယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ primary metric တစ်ခုလည်းရှိရမယ်အဲ့တစ်ခုတည်းအတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကပေးရတဲ့ cost metric ရှိရမယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့နှစ်ခုကတော့အရေးကြီးဆုံးကျွန်တော်တို့ ROI မှာအရေးကြီးဆုံးပါရမယ် criteria ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါဆိုကျွန်တော် conversion report social media conversion report ဆိုရင်လည်း social media ကနေကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ social media channel လို့ခေါ်တဲ့ Facebook ကျွန်တော်တို့ Facebook ပေါ့နော် Facebook channel ကနေကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ website ပေါ်မှာ drive လုပ်ပြီးရကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ cost per user customer acquisition from that particular channel ကနေဘယ်လောက်ထိကျွန်တော်တို့ကပေးရရဲဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ရဲ့ cost metric ရဲ့အဲ့ကနေဘယ်လောက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ traffic share contribution ဘယ်လောက်ရှိရဲဆိုတဲ့ဟာရေးကြည့်ရပါတော့အဲ့တော့ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ objective ကိုအရင်ဆုံး define လုပ်ပါပြီးရင်အဲ့ objective နဲ့ life and metric တစ်ခုတည်းကိုလာရွေးတယ်အဲ့ metric အတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပေးရတဲ့ cost metric ကိုရွေးရမယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ criteria အနေနဲ့3ခုတော့ရှိပါတယ်ဗျကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
Okay, I'm going to try and do my best to translate this Okay, basically, the answer is it needs to be so what criteria are needed to be included generally. So basically, whatever ROI that you set, it needs to be aligned with your annual objective, annual marketing objective, or your campaign specific objective. But the most important thing is to have a single-minded metric, whether that's number of likes, number of engagement, number of shares, or even click-throughs, et cetera, whatever it is, it needs to be aligned. It needs to be a single metric that is aligned to the overall campaign objective. And number three is you need to also track the cost metric. So how much money are you actually investing? Do you actually have to invest to generate, let's say, 10,000 likes on Facebook, for example? So these are the three key things. All right, thank you. I'll move on to the next question. All right, I think this question is interesting. In Myanmar, most users do not provide correct information and many fake accounts. How do you stay targeted to your consumers among those fake data? That's an interesting question. Actually, we also to be honest, have faced this quite a lot. But what I would say is once you get down to the level of device-based targeting instead of profile-based targeting, you actually will find that people cannot lie anymore because most of the times, right? What that means is instead of leveraging on data on what they fill up manually on Facebook, on your website, on your app, whatsoever, but instead of that, by leveraging on the data that they actually behave, so whether that's the type of products that they purchase, type of content that they look at, etc., their device location, their device model, etc. And by using the cookie, the targeting tool that you embed within the device, you'll find that actually you can actually beat and tackle fake accounts. Hope that answers your question. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. This is an interesting one. I believe this is coming from Ascent Capital. Win Myat presented on what kind of metrics are possible with analytics, right? And number two, second question is, how can investment companies detect for any data manipulation in the valuation of data-driven tech companies? This is an interesting question. I hope I won't get trouble into that. So let's say you're an analyst at a P or a VC firm. I believe what you should do is you should actually get access to their the entire analytics stack, as opposed to relying on the reports that they actually generate. Because with the analytics tool sets, they would actually, most of them actually have fraud detection capabilities. So number one, they will tell you. And second, the other thing that you could also do is there are specific tool sets. We can talk about this offline. There are specific tool sets that you can install on a browser to detect what kind of analytic triggers are being triggered on the device, on the website or right now. For example, let's say you're assessing an e-commerce website, right? Several of the e-commerce companies might actually jack up their numbers by triggering the purchase button twice instead of once. So for every single dollar that they generate, they're recording $2 being generated, right? It's a typical fraud. So by using some of these tools, you can actually detect the number of frequencies that a click is being generated. So with that, I believe you can actually detect some of these manipulation, but you really need to get down to the details by getting access to the analytics, number one. And number two, by cross-referencing the analytics data with the sales data. And number three, it will be very helpful if your team has a technology person or programmer that can actually look at the code if needed. Hope that answers your question. Thank you. I think we have time for two more questions. Let me see. Okay. Let me go through if there's any interesting questions to the audience using. Women, are you looking through the Q&A as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone that you want to tackle?
So the answer for the Tinder and why Dator as first position and Dator as 3 position, and also Mick and Will, thank you. So
okay, go ahead.
So yeah, this is because one data analytic collect the data, and they are not they are not case sensitive. That means if you type Mick we will, it's based on how you search how you type, how you use the keyword when you search the product on your website. So that attributed into the analytics dashboard, regardless of the case, right? The case sensitivity of your search keyword. So this is why you are seeing the redundant of the keyword that people are searching.
Okay, thank you, Win Myat.
Yeah.
Okay, I think last question for us, and I'd like to answer this one, which I think is really important. So the question is from Tinza. If the data fetching through the is being done through consumer profiles, how are consumer profiles being protected ethically? I think this is a very good question, because all these tech companies, I mean, I'm sure you might have noticed that big tech companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, etc., are now being held responsibility for having so much data. Okay? And for us, we're just leveraging on the data that they already collect. We're not collecting first data most of the times. And even if we collect, we have to make sure that we protect it. I think that's a fundamental question in all of this that we must ask ourselves, right? Number one, if data is so much available out there, like what Tinza asked, how do you protect it ethically? And to be honest, I feel that different companies have different standards. But ethically, what we need to make sure is, number one, the data that we store cannot be breached by third-party makers. The recent example that I can give is, I'm sure you guys are aware of the QR code pass registration system that the government implemented due to COVID-19, right? And some of you might know that actually that data is breached 2 days ago because it wasn't protected carefully, and people's phone numbers, email addresses are lost. So what I would recommend to anybody in this space is, let's make sure that your data is protected by encrypting the data. There will always be people who are trying to steal data, but let's make sure that you're encrypting the data so that the consumer profiles are actually encrypted. I don't mean all data needs to be encrypted, number one, because that will impact the performance and overall speed of the technology. What I mean is, let's make sure that the sensitive fields, which can be used to identify a consumer, is protected. Let's make sure that no people are involved in the process. Let's make sure that all data are anonymized. Let's make sure that only the systems are able to leverage on those consumer profiles, right? For example, if you've done some targeting campaigns on Facebook, let's say, Facebook actually doesn't allow you to download the actual audience, right? They have a tool called Facebook Custom Audience tool, where you can use their data to create custom audience, but they would never let you download back the phone number, email, or the name. That is the ethical part of Facebook. However, the unethical part of Facebook is they would actually let you upload your own phone number and email of a customer database. So to be honest, to be brutally honest, I think as an industry, we still need to work on some of these ethical questions, because there's just so much data available out there in the world that you can collect. The question of ethics becomes irrelevant as of today, right? And we need to fix that. And as an industry, that's something that we need to tackle. So I don't have a good answer, but as an industry, I'm sure that all the industry leaders are trying to tackle this question as well. Thank you. I think that's about it, actually. We don't have enough time to continue, but if you have any more questions that you want to chat about, please reach us to us directly. You can reach us through Facebook, LinkedIn, or even email. I've stated our emails here. You can email me at myat@nexlabs.co, and you can email Myat at myat@nexlabs.co. I hope this session was useful to all of you. And like I said, if you want to have a chat, a virtual coffee chat or virtual drinks after this, let us know, reach out to us. And thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Win Myat and Win Myat, for the insightful webinar. So thank you everyone for attending. We will send you the satisfaction survey and the presentation slides after this webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.